We sent messengers as bringers of good tidings and warners, so that mankind will have no argument against Allah after the messengers. And ever is Allah exalted in might and wise.
Bismillah, alhamdulillah. We've been talking about the prophets up until now in a general term and talking about the effects of following what they brought and what happens when people don't follow it. But now what I'd like to do is to tell you a little bit of background of some of these prophets so you can get a better understanding of how things came about, so you know the stories. We talked about Adam and we talked about his wife, how they were created. We also talked about their children and what happened to them. Then after that, we mentioned another child that came called Sheth, or Seth, as they call him in English. He was instructed by Adam, as a prophet himself, to know certain things, like the alternation of day and night and the effects and the meaning of it. He also understood some of the prophecies of things to come. Even he knew about the great flood that would come one day when Noah came. After Seth, he had a son, and his name was Anush. Can you say that?
Anush.
Yeah. And then Kenan, Malhalabi. Who cares how you say their names, right? And then he had Yard. That's a strange name, isn't it?
Yard.
Yeah.
Yard.
And then Hanukh.
Hanukh.
Hanukh. I don't know what's a Hanukh, but we call him Enoch. And his name is also Idris. Now with Idris came the first time people really start to learn how to read or write and use letters in the basic language like we sort of understand today. And Allah inspired him so much. In fact, he had some really good sayings, some excellent sayings. Some of them reach us today. One of the things he said was, a person becomes very happy when they look at their good deeds to intercede for them with Allah. What does that mean? It means when you do good deeds, then these things are good in front of Allah and helps maybe offset the bad deeds. And by the way, the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, told us essentially that. If you do a bad deed, follow it up with what? Good deed. Another thing that he taught us about is that if you really want to show your gratitude to Allah for what Allah gives you, then you share it with other people. And by the way, sometimes that's hard for people to do because they have wealth or they have some money or something, and you don't want to share that with other people. You want it for yourself. But Allah gave it to you. So if you want to really show Allah thank you, you do what? You give it and you share it. Well, after this one, after Enoch or Idris, he also had a son. And then he had a son. And then came the next one called Noah or Nuh. And this is the one we want to talk about today, a little bit about him. And we have talked about it to some extent, but we just talked about the flood and what happened. But what actually came about in the beginning helps you to really understand today's point. The point today being what happens when people worship other than Allah. This is our main point to understand how real evil comes about. We've been talking about sins, talking about evil, but what really brings it about is when people begin to worship other than Allah. It comes in stages, and it's the same stages that came at the time of Noah alayhi salam. What we know is that when people begin to worship other than Allah, that's the beginning of the breakdown. That's the real problem. And so what happened, there were times when there were very good people, and they used to worship Allah. And they were following the religion of Adam. And when I say religion, I mean the way of Adam, what he did, what he taught, and what he was all about. La ilaha illallah, worshiping only Allah, and doing what Allah wants you to do. One of the people who at that time was very religious, his name was Wadan. Everybody loved Wadan, and he was very nice. And he did what? He worshipped Allah. He shared his wealth that Allah gave him with other people. He was very kind, very nice. And then he died. And the people were sad. Oh my God, they were sad and crying. And then Shaitan came to them and said, oh, you're so sorry for Wadan is gone, yes? Yeah, he's gone. So, okay, how about if I give you like a picture of him so you can remember him? They said, this is good, a good idea. Even make a statue of him. Oh, that's good. Put a statue in the meeting place where people used to sit and meet. Put it right where he used to sit. Good idea. And the people used to come and even look at it and remember Wadan. What a great guy he was. Then Shaitan came to him again and said, how about I put one picture or image of him in your house and in your house and in your house? Oh, good idea. So we'll remember him. We loved him so much. And they did. Now the people didn't pray to him and they didn't think he was Allah, but they did like those statues. And when those people died and their children came and they looked at him and they said, who is this? This is Wadan. Who is Wadan? Oh, okay. And they say, everybody seems to like this guy. So they start to ask. They're asking the statue for something. And their children did the same. And they began to believe, if I need anything, I can ask Wadan, the statue, for what do I need? Will it work? No. If they get it, it was really coming from Allah. If they didn't get it, it was still because of Allah. But they forgot about Allah and they started thinking about these statues. And it wasn't just Wadan. There was another one that they thought had power, another one that they thought had wisdom, and another, and another. And all of these used to be people, and they died, and then they made the image or statue of those people. The people became far away from the right way because they were practicing something wrong. And we know it's not logical to ask from a rock or a stick or a stone. We already said that. This doesn't fit in your thinking, does it? It's wrong. So it's a lie. And it always starts the same way. Watch what happens. Remember the story we talked about when the children of Adam, they were upset. What happened? Because one of them, he doesn't want to obey his parents. Yeah? He didn't. He was disobedient to his parents. Marry this girl. He said, no, I want to marry this one. Remember? And then when Allah made it clear which one of them was right, which of the two boys, he still disobeyed. First he disobeyed his parents, then he disobeyed Allah. Then what did he do? He became angry and he killed his own brother. You're right. And this is horrible, yeah? But you see how it comes? It starts with lies. It starts with envy. Oh, he wanted what his brother had. Oh, I want that for me. So all of this adds up, and it adds up. And the people of the time of Noah were really bad. Really, really bad. And they used to want everything for themselves. And a few of them, they became rich, powerful, and wealthy. But most of the people were poor, and they had nothing. So when Noah alayhi salam came, Allah inspired him and let him understand the religion of Adam, the way of doing what Allah wants you to do. So he was very smart, by the way, high intellect. And he could argue with people in a good way. And he understood how to show them the signs of Allah in the day. And what comes in the day is the sun. And what happens in the day? Things grow. It becomes warm. And this is the time for activity. Now what happens in the alternation, though, of the night? In the nighttime, what happens? It's cool, quiet, and dark. And what happens then? You can look up or relax and think and look at the stars. Oh, we know our direction now by these stars. And we know the times of the seasons by the position of the moon and the shape of the moon. And we can tell even what day it is by the moon, yeah? So the people understood a lot from these signs. And he said, these are signs from Allah. This is from Allah, not from these statues that you guys have. And then he met with all of the gathering of the people and he said, guys, check this out. Listen up. Here's what I have for you. And he began to talk, very high intellectual, explaining things to them, proving things. And they were like, huh? They were shocked because they hadn't heard something like this before. These statues can't benefit you. There's no benefit here. Do you need something? You ask Allah. Plant stuff in the ground, let it grow out. Ask Allah to give you water. Can these statues make water rain here? No, but Allah can, because He created everything. They're like, yeah, well, They were pretty shocked. Now, what happened right away, the poor people, the downtrodden, they began to think, yeah, this makes sense. And they began to believe, and they began to follow Noah, alayhi salam. But the wealthy people, the powerful people of the community, they said, no, we don't believe that. And besides, you're no angel. You don't come to us and tell us anything. Noah alayhi salam said, okay, check it out. Did I tell you I'm an angel? I'm a human like you. I'm no different than you, except Allah inspired me what to say. I'm just showing you signs of Allah. They said, yeah, but you got all these losers, man. You got all these poor dudes with you. And to be honest about it, if you want us in your religion, you need to kick these guys out. And then we'll talk about it, because the rich and the powerful can't be in the same religion with the losers and the boozers. Let them go. SubhanAllah, look at this. And what did Noah alayhi salam tell him? He said, no way. No way. I'm not going to drive away the believers. It's not for me to do that. If you want to believe, this is with you. But if you want to disbelieve, only Allah is going to be the guide. So what happened? They began to reject what he said. And then they would say this and that, and then he would bring more proof. And they'd say, oh, darn, what about this? And he would bring more proof and more signs. And this went on until they were exhausted. They were fed up. And they bring something else, and he bring more proof. Because Allah has many signs, many proofs for the disbeliever. Even it went on for almost 1,000 years. On and on and on. And they still didn't believe.
इंसाफ, इंसानियत और ईमानदारी।
मशहूर थी जिनकी सदाकत और ईमानदारी,
सखावत और इनकिसारी।
जरूरी है जिनकी फरमाबरदारी। जो थे अल्लाह के महबूब, जानिए उनको जिन्हें कुरान ने कहा रहमतुल लिल आलमीन।
शेख रज़ाउल्लाह अब्दुल करीम।
देखिए हमारा प्रोग्राम फ़ज़ाइले सैयदुल मुरसलीन।
फ़ज़ाइले सैयदुल मुरसलीन हर पीर शाम 5:30 बजे और दोबारा सुबह 5:30 बजे इंडिया में पीस टीवी उर्दू पर।
ایک مومن کی اصل منزل آخرت کی منزل ہے، اور ایک مومن کی اصل کامیابی آخرت کی کامیابی ہے۔ محترم ناظرین، میں آپ کا دینی بھائی حافظ عبد القدیر عمری اسی کو سمجھانے کے لیے پروگرام لے کر کے آ رہا ہوں، فکر آخرت۔
کیجئے اپنے ہر عمل سے اللہ کو راضی تاکہ حاصل ہو جنت۔ دیکھیے یوم آخرت ہر بدھ رات 8:30 بجے اور دوبارہ دوپہر 12:30 بجے انڈیا میں پیس ٹی وی اردو پر۔ 20 سے زائد علماء کرام نظر آئیں گے، ایک ساتھ ایک پلیٹ فارم پیس ٹی وی پر۔
آج بھی ہو جو براہیم سے ایمان پیدا، آگ کر سکتی ہے گلستہ پیدا۔
जिनका मकसद, जिनकी कोशिश
कि अल्लाह के बंदों तक अल्लाह का पैगाम पहुंचाया जाए।
इसी से दुनिया में अमन अमान कायम हो सकता है।
ऐसे ही लोगों के लिए अमन सलामती और शांति, और ये लोग हिदायत पर हैं।
हिदायत और नजात की राह बताना।
प्यारे रसूल की नसीहत, प्यारे रसूल की वसीयत।
इस्लाम सारी दुनिया के अंदर अमन और चैन कायम करने के लिए आया है।
उसके मुताबिक हम अपनी जिंदगी को बनाएं।
कि मुसलमानों, तुम जन्नत में दाखिल नहीं हो सकते जब तक ईमान वाले न हो जाओ।
हक और इंसाफ की राह पर लाना।
हमारी परेशानियों का इलाज
कुरान और सुन्नत है,
जो अल्लाह ताला का पैगाम है। इबादत इतनी आसान दुनिया के किसी मजहब में नहीं।
मोहब्बत और अमन की राह पर चलाना।
मोहम्मद रसूलुल्लाह सल्लल्लाहु अलैहि वसल्लम के नक्शे कदम पे चले।
क़यामत तक आपकी सुन्नत, आपकी शरीयत काबिल अमल है, वाजिबुल अमल।
हर मुसलमान का फर्ज है कि वो इस्लाम का पैगाम दूसरों तक पहुंचाए।
क्योंकि इस्लाम का हर सबक, हर कानून आम करता है मोहब्बत का चलन, राह अमन। अगला प्रोग्राम पीस टीवी उर्दू पर।
What we learn from this is that knowledge and intellect are a big benefit to us if they're based on truth, but no benefit if they're based on lies. And what Nuh alayhi salam had was knowledge and truth. So when you use that and you bring your proof, you can use this for your own understanding and to share it with others exactly what he did. Even those people accused him, remember they said, "Oh, are you some kind of angel?" And he said, "I didn't claim to be any angel. I didn't say that." They said, "Well, what do you want from us?" He said, "I didn't ask you for anything. I don't need anything from you. What I get from Allah. But if you want to believe, it's good for you." Well, what happened next? He kept warning them. Now, this is 1,000 years, and he's warning them and saying Allah's punishment is going to come if you don't do it. Because up to now, you notice the people kind of gradually got away from the right belief to worshiping these statues, gradually. And Allah tells us that He never punishes any nation until what? After He sends a messenger. And this is their messenger. He was the messenger to these people. And He was telling them, guys, don't have false worship, worship Allah. And they rejected it. In fact, look what they said. "Oh yeah, if you're truthful, bring it on. Where is it? Where is the punishment? We don't see it." Guess what happened next? He told them, don't ask for this. Don't rush it up. Because when it comes, when it starts, it's too late. And I can't help you then. No benefit then. And this is even true even today. You have to remember that when you start seeing it, the end come, it's too late. When somebody's about to die, it's too late then to believe. The time to believe, as soon as you get the message in your head, accept it. Well, they kept asking him, teasing him, make fun of him, ha ha ha. Then Allah inspired him to do what? You remember the story? Because He was telling them there's going to be this great flood. And they're like, we got a drought. We don't even have enough water to take care of our plants. Oh yeah, sometimes we get a little water. But when they did, by the way, they weren't thankful to Allah. And then that goes away. And sometimes we get some fruit or crops, but that goes away. We keep having all these problems. And water'd be great to have. And you're telling us it's going to be a flood. Ha, ha, ha. Bring it on. Bring it on. Then Noah alayhi salam started to build the ship, the big boat, huge boat. We talked about it. It got really big, and the people really laughed. They were like, who would go with this guy? And look at those poor people, the losers. Hello, I'm not going with them. No. Because they thought they were going to get in the boat and just sit there and nothing's going to happen. And then an amazing thing, Allah inspired Noah alayhi salam to go get what? Animals. 2 by 2 by 2. So he started bringing the animals in, and they're going, okay, that's it. He lost it. Taking animals into the big boat, and there's no water. But some people believed, and they went with him, and they helped, put the animals in. Must have been hard, huh? Can you imagine what that was like? With all the animals in there? Must have smelled pretty strong too, huh? But they did it. They got everything in there, and then it started. A little bit of rain, a little bit more. And he told them, see? They said, ah. Then some more rain. And then it started coming water from underneath. He said, look. And they said, don't worry. Even he told his son, you remember? And his son said, don't worry, I'll just go up the mountain. He said, it's going to go up the mountain too. He said, I'll go higher. I'm not going to go with you guys. His son and his wife didn't believe. They wouldn't go in the ship. But the others did, and they went in and sealed it up. And as you know, the rain came, and the water gushed, and it came more and more and more until the ship lifted up and went up, until the water began to go way up the mountains. And this is amazing. That's a lot of water. We're not talking about leaving the bathtub overflow. We're talking serious water, huge flood. And then what happened? Covered the mountains. Once it covered the top of the mountains, there was no place for the people, was there? So they all drowned except for the people in the ship with Noah. As we know, that was a long time that the water came down, and a very long time that they were out in the water in the ocean. Nobody even can tell you exactly how long, but it was very long. It was after Noah alayhi salam released some birds. He released them. They might come back with nothing. But then he released some birds, and they came back with something, and he said, aha, because you came back with this branch, this thing, I know that must be some land somewhere now. Then he released some birds. They never came back at all. He said, okay, that we're getting close. Then Allah made the ship stop on where? Mount Judy. We talked about that. Some people think that's where Kurdistan is today, don't they? So what do we learn from the subject? We learn that knowledge based on truth is a good way to have the right beliefs. One of the things that these prophets taught, Idris and Noah alayhi salam, they taught people about justice, how to be fair. They taught people about salah. What is salah? Salah is when you stand and worship Allah and you bow down on the ground. You put your head down on the ground and thank Allah for all the things that He's given you. And they taught the people about fasting. Even if you're wealthy, you have money, you have everything. Why should I fast? I have food. Why should I not eat? But this is when you let your brain overcome your desires. My body said, eat. But my brain said, no, don't. Instead, give your food to somebody else today. And this was teaching people how to share. So that instead of me eating today, I'm going to find a poor person and say, you eat today. And this is what it was talking about. When Allah gives you something, you show gratitude to Allah by sharing it with the other people. And this shows what? Gratitude. It's like saying big thank you to Allah when you take care of the people. A very good lesson from there. Also, there's something they taught called zakah. Zakah means to purify. You purify with zakah. And it means to purify your money, your wealth. And even Idris was telling the people about this. And even Nuh alayhi salam was telling people about this. Take some of what you have every year. Take a certain amount and give it to the poor. Give it to them. And what will happen? Allah will be pleased with you because you shared what Allah gave you. And this is a beautiful thing. So fasting, zakah, charity is another word for charity, and the salah, the worship of Allah, these are all things that we know from all the way back with the ancient prophets. We find it even in the scriptures, even today in the Old Testament, when it said they used to fall on their face. Well, I don't think they slipped on a banana peel and fell. I think you can see that it's talking about sajda, the prostration, when you bow down and put your head on the ground and you thank Allah. You thank Allah for what He's given you. And it talks about when the people used to bow down, and they bowed. And how do you do bow? Ruku'ah. And they used to pray to Allah, and we do that. Supplication or dua. All of these things were being taught by these prophets to their people. All the way from Adam and all the way down through these prophets, all the way to the last prophet, Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And today, even the Muslims, we do the same thing. First, we bear witness to the intellectual, clear understanding of the truth. There can only be one God, Allah, and you have to worship Him. And second, in the worship, you do it the way He wants it to be, with our salah. Third, to take what you have and share it with other people, with the zakah. And don't forget fasting. Now, not just in Ramadan. We have Ramadan, a whole month of fasting, yeah? But Allah tells us, even in the Quran, Ya ayyuhalladhina amanu, O you who believe, kutiba alaykum, it's ordered for you to do the Sawm.